All right, so this time on Tree Talk, we're not going to talk about a living tree species. We're actually going to talk about what we call snags, which is all dead standing trees. This is a dead, it looks like a northern red oak, Quercus rubra, but as you can see, it looks like it's been dead for a little while. The bark is starting to slough right off of the tree, and we don't have any leaves left up in the canopy. Dead standing wood is really important for wildlife. I think we tend to, as humans, often we like to get rid of dead wood when it's standing somewhere, thinking it might be a hazard to fall on a structure or just kind of clean it up. But if it's at all possible with safety in mind to leave dead standing wood, that's really important in your forest and also in backyard situations and agricultural situations as well. So why it's so important specifically, we want all this carbon here to stay on site. So when this eventually does fall over, all of the sugars that are locked up in that wood are going to slowly turn into soil, and leaving that here will basically mean that this carbon gets sequestered here, very slowly turning into soil rather than burning it or taking it off somewhere and kind of getting rid of that carbon. But additionally, for wildlife, this is an incredibly valuable resource, an invaluable resource really. There's a lot of species that use dead standing wood or snags for roosting sites, meaning that's where they take cover either to raise young or just for thermal protection. So this I don't see any yet, but woodpeckers will start to work on this dead standing tree, and they'll make little cavities in it, and those cavities will be used by other species. So a primary cavity nester is something like a woodpecker, which makes the hole and then lives in it. And then there are tons of secondary cavity nesters, species that will use that cavity after a different species has already made that cavity. So that's your chickadees, your titmice, owls, squirrels, chipmunks, possums, you name it. Additionally, one of the most important families that we have of wildlife is bats, Chiroptera, and most of our bat species use forests for their roosting, their summer roosting cover, meaning this is where they are raising their young. So trees are forests are super important for bats, but dead standing wood is the best thing, because you can see here all this bark sloughing off. This is like a condo, an apartment complex basically for bats to get in under that bark and rear their young. Most bats only raise about one pup. They call juvenile bats pups over the course of the summer, and they need this dead standing wood and some other species. White oak and shagbark hickory are two fantastic living tree species for bats to roost up under. But you can see here we have, it's basically just a really protective shell. A lot of our forest bat species are really small, about the size of your thumb. They'll get up under there and they're protected and they're nice and warm because there's a lot of solar radiation hitting the top branches. So that's really ideal conditions to raise their pups in. The pups can grow a lot faster in those hot conditions. And then at night they have a lot of space because there's no canopy to jump out and start flying away to start foraging to get insects. So standing dead wood or snags are super important for our forests, but especially for our wildlife and especially for bats. We're coming into now forests for the bats, our special time of year where we pay a lot of attention to bats and really highlight them and how important they are for our forest ecosystems, and there's really not too much that's better than snags for our bats. So we could see here, this is an older snag. It's been standing a lot longer. It's really falling apart, but you can see there's tons of activity here. A lot of this is woodpeckers looking for bugs that are slowly decomposing the snag, but also there's some bigger cavities that likely, before it started to decompose this much, were homes for those woodpeckers and all the other secondary cavity nesters. And all around this area, there's large branches and parts of the trunk that are decomposing slowly. Again, giving food to the bugs that are decomposing it and all the animals that eat those bugs, and slowly taking all that carbon out of our atmosphere. And once that living tissue is no more, returning it actually to the soil instead of back into the atmosphere. So good all around. Thank you, snag.